interesting day. What an interesting year. What an interesting life we live. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. My name is Will Johnson. UniteAmericaFirst.com is the website. Thank you so much. Please, if you would, go to UniteAmericaFirst.com and sign up for the free newsletter. Please sign up for it. I have perks in there too. Hey, it's a really good deal. But anyways, hey, thank you everybody for joining me. Now, I really do have some interesting stuff to share with you this evening. And I think a lot of it, well, a great deal of it has to do with, the truth coming to light now. The facts are actually coming out. And you have a lot of people still trying to keep the facts from being seen. They don't want people to know the truth. Why is that even happening? Why is it that when, hey, if you have a 2 + 2 question and you say 4, then someone comes after you and say you're putting out misinformation, or they try to come at you and say that you're doing something wrong because you said 2 + 2 = 4. Well, what happens when you hurt the feelings of number 5 and number 6, right? What happens when you hurt their feelings? When you say 2 + 2 = 4. And that's exactly how petty and exactly how stupid this thing really is. But anyways, one of the main things that I like to talk about is the free speech that, we're supposed to have. But now the federal government got caught working with the big tech companies. And we're supposed to be like, well, this is just normal, because what's really interesting to me when they say is this normal, right? Because they say that the tech companies are private companies, so they can do whatever it is they want to do. But it's a different story when you have the federal government going to the tech companies, getting them to censor the American people. So how long has this been going on? How long has it been happening? Is there going to actually be any changes coming? Probably not. Just to be honest with you, I think the tech companies are multi-billion-dollar tech companies, and they probably have more money on hand than the federal government. See, the federal government, last time I looked, was $31 trillion in debt. In debt. And to my understanding, these tech companies, they're not $31 trillion in debt. They have money on hand. So they can probably fight the federal government if they want to, but the federal government went to them to censor you and I. Before I get to some of the Twitter stuff that I want to share with you, I want to share this one thing from Karine Jean-Pierre, where she's asked another question about Biden, because apparently Biden is all of a sudden wants to take a trip to Arizona. Why do you think that is? Why do you think Biden wants to take a trip to Arizona? You let me know why you think that is. But anyways, Biden's going down to Arizona, but he still refuses to go to the border. So someone in the press corps asked Karine Jean-Pierre if Biden is going to take just a little time, because, he's constantly saying, well, I didn't have time. I had to take my nap, so I didn't have time to go to the southern border. He's going to be at the border, basically, but he still won't go. Why not?
The reason I asked is just because the president had said previously that he hadn't had a lot of time to get to the border. He's going to a border state tomorrow, so you think maybe there would be time there. If there isn't tomorrow, can you say at this point that he...
What I'm saying is tomorrow he's going to actually focus on an issue, a bipartisan issue that was voted in Congress, the CHIPS and Science Act, something that is going to deliver for the people in Arizona, creating jobs and making people's lives better and making sure that we are bringing manufacturing back into the U.S.
What does that got to do with the question, though? What does that got to do with the question? Why won't he go to the border? Right? He has the time now. Take a couple hours and go down to the southern border. And only basically in that few amount of time, he go down to the southern border, you will see the trafficking happening. But see, they don't want to do that because then they will expose what they have been doing. And now she goes on trying to say that, well, the Republicans are doing political stunts. Well, the Republicans are bringing awareness to what's happening on the southern border, and they're still acting like it's not even happening.
That is critically important. Now, what I'm saying, the second part of that to your question, if Republicans officials truly want to deal with immigration, they truly want to deal with the border, then they would stop doing political stunts and actually work with us on the plan that we have put forward, which they are not. And that's what we want to make very loud and clear. There's ways to deal with this. Again, they can come and actually do this in a bipartisan way, just like we did with the CHIPS and Science Act.
You know what? If it was a political, okay, if the Democrats want to stop the political stunt of the Republicans using the illegal immigrants coming into the country by sending them to like Martha's Vineyard or other blue cities, then shut the border down. That would stop it altogether. But see, they don't want to shut it down. They don't want to stop the fentanyl from coming across the border. They don't want to stop the sex trafficking of children. They don't want it to stop. And the real question that comes down is, why don't they want it to stop? Why not? These people are putting Americans in harm's way. Now, if it was me, right? If I'm a politician and I'm deliberately doing something that's putting people in harm's way, I would at least think that, I'm going to be in trouble for doing this, but there's no consequences to this, right? And they've done so much damage already. It's like they're going to continue doing it, especially what just happened. They're thinking, well, the American people want us to do this damage to them. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Okay, now let's get on to this whole thing with Twitter again. So Twitter is still in the news, and we're still talking about Twitter. Even the press corps are asking questions about Twitter, right? And they're still talking. And now the press corps is asking Karine Jean-Pierre about the Hunter Biden story. Now that we all know it's not Russia. It's not Russian propaganda. We all know this now. Everyone's been confirming it, that it's not Russian propaganda. Even some of the liberal media outlets are even admitting that it's not Russian propaganda after they were pushing all of it. Now, listen to what Karine Jean-Pierre says about being asked about the Hunter Biden laptop and about the roles, the role play of the White House in all of this.
Go ahead. Real fast, Karine, just real quick on Twitter, because you guys said you're keeping a close eye on Elon Musk's ownership, and it's the first time we've talked to you since you released the files a few days ago. Is it the White House view that decisions at Twitter were made appropriately in terms of decisions to censor this reporting ahead of the election?
You mischaracterized actually what I actually said.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't. You all said Russia. They said it was all Russian propaganda. They were all saying it. Every last one of them. No one's mischaracterizing anything. She's just backtracking, circling back, trying to backtrack and try to cover up the lies that she was saying. Every single person know that the left was saying it was Russian propaganda. Russia.
Took it out of context when you asked her a question. Look, when I answered the question, and I actually already addressed this about how the White House and the administration is seeing what's happening on Twitter. We follow also what's going on, just like you guys are reporting and just like you guys are seeing. And what I was commenting to is like, yes, we're seeing what is happening, just like you all are seeing what's happening with Twitter. So just want to clear that up because you definitely mischaracterized what I said or put it out of context. And so can you ask your question again?
Yes, my question was that you had said, I think 6 or so days ago, that the White House was watching closely the situation at Twitter after Elon Musk's ownership of it with respect to misinformation. And because these files were released on the basis of,
See, and I was so waiting for them to get to the point to where they're going to start asking about all these files that are coming out, right? All this information is coming out about how the DNC colluded with big tech to censor the American people. The DNC is part of the federal government. It's the Democrat National Convention. A whole bunch of demons get together. But that's who did it. They were doing it. Along with the Democrat Party as a whole, they were doing it. And the Biden crime family. They were all doing it.
Hack materials clause at Twitter. Decisions were made to censor reporting leading up to the election. My question was, is it the White House view that these decisions were made appropriately in light of what has come out?
Which decisions? By whom?
By Twitter.
By Twitter on, okay. So, look, we see this as an interesting or a coincidence, if I may, that...
Oh, this is just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. Now, listen to her. Now she's going to, she's trying to sliver her way through this and bring up a lie. Listen.
That he would so haphazardly, Twitter would so haphazardly push this distraction. That is a full of old news, if you think about it.
Oh, it's old news. It's old news. The Hunter Biden laptop.
Russia.
That's old news. Can we move on? We don't want to talk about that any longer. We don't want to talk about this possibly that the big guy is compromised. Don't want to talk about that. Let's move on because that's old news. Well, guess what? The only reason why we're still talking about it is because you guys, the federal government, went to big tech to get everybody bounced, blocked, deleted, removed, silenced because you didn't want anybody talking about it. That's the reason why we're talking about it. And now that it's all coming to light, y'all notice this, that the documents that they're releasing, she's not calling the documents fraudulent. Have y'all picked up on that? Now, I'm pretty sure some of these tyrants out there are saying this, but she's not a single time, I haven't heard her say it yet, that these documents that Elon Musk is releasing are not valid. She's not saying that.
And at the same time, Twitter is facing very real and very serious questions about the rising volume of anger, hate, and anti-Semitism on their platform, and how they're letting it happen.
Okay, so again, free speech, hate speech is protected speech. See, there's a lot of trolls can say all they want about Will Johnson. People say people send me emails, people send me messages, what they don't like me. They say this nasty stuff about me, right? They get to say what they don't like me. They get to say it. It's free speech. I've had one dude offer me to come to, when I was living in California, and I've told this story before, that he wanted me to come to Oakland so he could put me out my miseries. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Right? And I can't report them because when I report them, they say it doesn't go against their community standards, their guidelines, what have you. It doesn't go. When it's violence towards me, it's okay. But but I constantly say that we should never call for violence. And when people say stuff on Twitter, what's happening now, that the left doesn't like, they automatically call that violence. They're calling it hate. Again, hate speech is protected speech. Just because you don't like someone saying something hateful does not give you the right, especially the federal government, to come in and shut it down. Now, listen to this one with Ron Johnson, because he's talking about the Hunter Biden laptop as well. And this was on Fox News. Listen to what he says, because he was personally attacked by the DNC with fraudulent information. They did this whole campaign trying to knock him off, lying about him. And the federal government was doing it through social media.
How many times have I come on your show here over the last 2 to 3 years and talked about how as troubling as the corruption of the Biden family business dealings are, as much as that compromise our national security, as troubling, if maybe even more dangerous, is the corruption that we've uncovered in federal law enforcement, our intelligence agencies, as well as the complicit and corrupt media. I mean, those, I think, are maybe even larger stories that really threaten our democracy to a far greater extent. Listen, I appreciate what Mr. Musk is doing here. It's certainly revealing an awful lot about that particular censorship. But, Senator Grassley and my investigation of Hunter Biden was hampered really as soon as it started. But certainly all through 2020, when we had Democrats cooperating and smearing us and creating false intelligence products, leaking those to the media. You know, the scheme that we now know from whistleblowers that the FBI developed in August of 2020 to downplay the derogatory information, the unsolicited briefing that was given to Senator Grassley in August that was then later leaked to smear me in May and impacted the Wisconsin U.S. Senate election in 2022. This, you know, there are, you know, I've lived this. I've been, you know, on the receiving end of the corruption of the smears. So there is a much, much larger story here than just what's being revealed right now with the Elon Musk's revelations.
It's a bigger story going on. And that's the reason why you have Karine Jean-Pierre just mentioning it, saying that, well, you know what? Elon Musk, Twitter is becoming, they're actually saying that Elon Musk and Twitter is becoming a national security threat. They're angry because he's allowing free speech. And again, okay, we don't have to get into all this, but people are saying, oh, you can't trust Elon Musk. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that, because I don't know why you need to trust Elon Musk in the first place. But anyways, let's move on. So then you have Rick Scott even talking about Twitter. You know, the Congress is starting to talk about it. Elizabeth Warren, at one point, she was talking about the social media platforms and what they were doing, but she wanted them to actually censor conservatives more. That's what her whole deal was. They were not preventing Americans from, you know, speaking enough. That's Elizabeth Warren's approach, unless she's changed since then. But that's been her approach. And you have these rhino Republicans, not a single one of them are speaking out. And I know a lot of people have their reservations about McCarthy, as I do. Has McCarthy said anything about the censorship taking place with all of this information coming out on Twitter? It only means that Trump was right. Maybe that's the reason why these rhino Republicans aren't saying anything. Listen to Rick Scott.
I want to get your take on one investigation that we'd like to see, and that is an investigation of social media and the FBI and the collusion underway. Elon Musk teasing the release of more internal Twitter communications surrounding the company's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story. Among those files, we've learned that the Biden campaign asked Twitter to delete certain tweets. Journalist Matt Taibbi writes this: one executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team, and then the reply would come back. We have it right here in front of you. Thank you, handled. Senator, what does that mean, handled?
Yes, what does that mean, handled? Okay, let me break it down, because he's gonna answer it, but I'm just gonna break it down. Handled mean that, okay, we deleted it, or either we banned it, or we suspended the account. We've done something to hinder them, to hurt them, because they said something you don't like. They didn't do anything. They didn't cause for harm for anybody. They weren't threatening anybody. They just said something that was truthful that the Democrat Party didn't want people to know about. And again, I hate to say this, but I don't think anything's going to change. I don't think, and I'm saying this in hopes that I'm wrong. I really do. I'm saying this in hopes that I'm wrong. But I don't think anything's going to change. I think the big tech companies are going to double down. They're going to get the lawyers involved, and they're going to say, well, you're hindering our First Amendment rights by not allowing us to shut down people that the federal government, the leftist federal government, doesn't want us to shut down. So you're violating our rights. They've actually said that, especially like here in the state of Texas, right? Same thing in Florida. When Texas and Florida did their whole, you cannot censor American people because you're on a virtual platform, the virtual square, right? The virtual square, virtual public square. You can't censor people. They got the lawyers to kick in, and they found a liberal communist federal judge to say, yep, you can't do it because you're violating their First Amendment rights, talking about the big tech companies. Forget about the people. Forget about the people. These judges, I don't even know what oath they took. Was it one to protect the people, protect the law? No, they didn't. They're protecting the ones who's filling their pockets like their fat bellies.
It sure sounds like social media works for the Biden administration. Whatever the Biden administration says, I mean, this is basically stopping freedom of speech. So these social media companies have got to come clean exactly what they're doing. I'm glad Elon Musk is doing that. I'm glad that he's putting out there. So the public should have a right to know what these companies are doing, how they're censoring free speech, how they're reducing your ability to get information. They should be telling us exactly what they're doing, but they don't, and they work for the Democrats. We've got to stop this. Americans have got to get mad about what's going on in this country. You've got to be mad about what the debt, the social media companies, the IRS, all of these things. You've got to start showing up and say, this is my country. We've got to take this country back.
It is my country, and we got to take the country back. But see, when Democrats hear that, oh my goodness, the conservatives want their country back. How dare they? We can't allow them to get their country back. Look how much damage that we've done to the United States of America. We got to continue this. We can't allow them to have their country back, because then the country will become more successful. The country will become more prosperous. The country will have more happy people. The country will be independent. The country won't depend on other countries for oil. The country won't depend on the United Nations and other tyrannical governments. We can't have that. See, that's what the Democrats don't want. They don't want the United States of America to be and remain a sovereign nation. They don't want it. They hate the sovereignty of America. If they did, if they like the sovereignty of America, then guess what? They would be shutting down the borders, but they're not doing that. They're doing just the opposite. Let me play something for you from a clip from the past. Now, this was when Joe Brandon was campaigning. This is when he was campaigning, and this guy that you see right here, he asked Joe Biden a question about Hunter Biden. And listen to what Joe Biden says, because Joe Biden just blatantly lies. He says, there's no dealings, Hunter Biden, blah, blah, blah. It's really bizarre that he just blatantly lies like this. And the liberal media, they never said anything about it. And now all of this information is coming out on Twitter. And again, they're not saying it's false information. They're not.
But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience with gas or nothing, in order to get access for the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he was.
You're selling access to Obama just like Hunter was selling access to you. Now listen and watch Joe Biden, because he gets upset with this. And you know what? This guy says it, and it's 100% true. And you know where the guy said he got the information from? MSDNC.
So you're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that? No one has heard that?
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. If you want to check my shape on it, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take my push-ups.
So he body shames them and said, let's do push-ups together if you want to check me out. Let's do push-ups together, right? Talking about who's strong or who can do more. And they're clapping at it, and he's body shaming. And you know what? The left, they have this whole thing about, putting fat people in bikinis and stuff and saying, oh, this is how people should be, fat in bikinis, right? But he's body shaming this guy because he's a little overweight, body shaming him, and they're all clapping at it. If it was the other way around, if he was in drag, of course he wouldn't be bringing up the Hunter Biden laptop issue or Hunter Biden selling assets. Wouldn't be bringing that up. But if he was a dude in drag, they would be, hey, let's get him to start dancing for the kids we have here.
Number two, no one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
I don't recall him saying that you set your son up. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Who cares? His son was working at Brismore Oil making $83,000 a month. $83,000 a month, regardless on what he said or how he said it. That is true. It was true then. It was 100% true.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
Oh, you don't hear that on MSNBC.
You hear this? Yo, you didn't hear that on MSDNC. You didn't hear that on there because MSDNC works for me. That's what Joe Brandon is saying. Obviously, they do because that's all they've been doing.
You did not hear that at all. What you heard? Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man. Well, I don't want to. Well, yeah, you do. But look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
You hear? He started to call him. Look, he said, "Look, Fatso." Did y'all hear him? He said, "Look, Fatso. Here's the deal. Here's the deal."
It looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does when you're.
Let him talk.
Any other questions?
Yeah, all right.
I'm not voting for you. Well, I knew you were, man. You think I probably said I would vote for you? You're too old to vote for me. All right, here we go.
He said, "I'm not voting for you," and Crypt Keeper Biden says, "I know you're not voting for me. You're too old to vote for me. You're too old to vote for me." I guess that goes with the same thing of, you're too old for me to be dating. But anyways, did you know Hunter Biden's firm, right? The firm for Hunter Biden, did you know they got $10 million in
Kung flu
relief? Did y'all know that? $10 million. And then they turned around and gave $1 million to the Democrats. It kind of sounds like another version of FTX. That's what it really seems like. It seems like another thing of FTX. Listen to this as they're talking about this. And the lady that you see here is from the Washington Post. Washington Post was the one that broke the story about the Hunter Biden laptop. The one that was
Russia.
And all of a sudden now it's factual, right? It's factual. But listen to this. This lady's Washington Post. Listen who got $10 million. $10 million. And then gave $1 million to the Democrats. I'm just saying, it sounds like FTX to me.
Absolutely. Will alluded to it, Miranda, real quick. The New York Post has a headline this morning. Hunter Biden's former law firm, again, Hunter Biden, received $10 million in forgiven COVID loans while donating $1 million to Democrats. What's the story here?
This is an investigation by an independent transparency organisation called Open the Books, and they looked at 300 of the top law firms in the country, saw what PPP loans they got during the pandemic when they were supposed to be for mum and pop businesses to help them get through the pandemic. It certainly wasn't something in a top law firm like Boies Schiller, where Hunter Biden had worked, had been paid $216,000 a year for this no-show job where he didn't have to attend meetings or turn up with regular office hours. This company, Boies Schiller, their Democratic donors, they got $10 million plus in pandemic loans, and that was all forgiven under the Biden administration in 2021. At the same time, they donated around about $1 million to Democratic federal candidates.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's how Washington works.
Absolutely amazing. And you know what? He's right. That's how basically it's how Congress works. It still sounds like FTX to me. They put money in there and then they get $1 million out, right? Put money in it. They're laundering money. Isn't that the definition of laundering money? I mean, what? And this was the firm that Hunter Biden apparently was getting paid $200,000 a year. $200,000 a year. And dude, is Hunter Biden a lawyer? What's he doing at the firm? What was he doing? They said he wasn't even showing up. He was just getting a paycheck. And I guess it was worth it. $10 million. And then $1 million goes to the Democrats. So then that way the Democrats won't come after him. Any shady business to you, or is it just me? Okay. Now we're at this point. I have to do this. And I want to thank everyone that's on Facebook and YouTube and the other platforms. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm getting ready to get into a segment to where these other tech companies won't allow me to show it. And I do have some explosive stuff that I want to share with everybody. Oh, my goodness. And I really wish I could share it on some of these other platforms. But you see how just go read the documents on Twitter. Just go read them on Twitter. You've seen what they've been doing, right? Have y'all not been paying attention? Have you not been paying attention? Because I'm still under suspicion that the FBI is still going to the tech companies and saying, okay, you need to block this person, this person, this person, this person. I've not seen anything come different of that, right? The shadow banning, the blocking, the hindering people's reach, all of that is still in play at the tech companies. It's still in play. I'm wondering, did the federal government have them delete my YouTube video, my YouTube channel even? I'm just wondering. It wouldn't surprise me at all. All right, but for those of you that want to join me over on Rumble, please do so now. You go over to Rumble, and right there, what you see right there, and I'm going to share some stuff with you that, of course, I can't share on these other platforms. And again, I thank everyone for being with me on YouTube, on Facebook, on YouTube. I already said YouTube, didn't I? And Twitter. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with me. I really do appreciate you being here. All right. For those of you that's going to connect with me on Rumble, I can't wait to share with you what I have to share with you, because, man, do I think it's explosive? I really do. I really do. All right. So I'll see you over there.